the Balkans. 11 countries, many more languages, 257,000 square miles of some of the most striking landscape in the whole of Europe. This region has everything, from history to culture to folklore. It's the perfect place for an epic bike ride. But the Balkans also has a dark side. I first came here as a 32-year-old cameraman to follow the battle for Sarajevo, the longest and most infamous siege in the history of modern warfare, which cost tens of thousands of lives. It was an experience I'll never forget. But in the years since then, they say much has changed, so I'm coming back to try to exorcise some old ghosts and hopefully make plenty of new friends.
Great, nice.
I'm going on an epic journey through the Balkans. It'll take me from Slovenia into mainland Croatia, then island hopping in the Adriatic, before I head for Bosnia, revisit Sarajevo, then carry on through the heart of Serbia before finishing in Bulgaria. But it'll begin here, in one of the smallest and newest countries in Europe, Slovenia. Well, welcome to Slovenia and its capital, the lovely Ljubljana. But this isn't quite the start of my Balkans adventure. That journey is going to start 1,000 miles away at my home in Oxfordshire. And why? Because it's all about the motorcycle that I'm going to ride. And this is it, my beloved Steve McQueen Desert Racer. Now, if you've been watching World's Greatest Motorcycle Rides, you may remember this bike from my trip across South Africa. And you also might remember that it didn't go particularly well. It started off brilliantly. A fantastic country, wonderful people, amazing landscapes. But barely 500 miles into that journey, in the 40-degree heat of the Kalahari, the wheels came off my Matisse Desert Racer dream. Or to be more precise, the silencers fell off. But look at it, it's completely mangled. The shock absorbers snapped. The frame started leaking like a junior minister. And worst of all, the trials tyres fell apart. I found a garage, but all they could offer me was a huge pair of Harley-Davidson shocks and another set of trials tyres.
We haven't got an enduro tyre. It's a false dawn, really.
I had no choice but to abandon the bike and swap it for something entirely different. So you may be thinking, why on earth would Henry give this bike another go? Well, I think there are two reasons, really. The first one is emotional for me. I've never, apart from that ride in South Africa, left a motorcycle in the middle of the ride. And to me, emotionally, that really upset me. When you buy, especially an old bike like this, you have an affinity with it, you know? You love this thing. And when it's not coming with you, I found it rather like a divorce. I know that sounds crazy, but I did. The other reason why I want to do it as well is I did no preparation whatsoever for the South African ride and expected an off-road motorcycle to do 2,000 miles on tarmac in 40-degree heat. And I am the only person to blame of why this bike messed up. So this time, I'm gonna get it right. And that means doing a lot of work on it. I've already changed the tyres, and the oil leak was an easy fix a long time ago. But for my ride through the Balkans, I'm going to make some crucial changes. This bike needs more powerful brakes, suitable for tarmac rather than sand. So I'm going to get a new front wheel with a bigger hub. My first port of call is Hagen's in Essex, manufacturers of shock absorbers so reliable you could ride through an earthquake and not feel a thing. And home to Richie Stevens, wheel builder extraordinaire. His task is to build a new front wheel around a large Honda hub. Now Richie, who's preparing stuff over there, has already cut our spokes to length. And in a minute, I'm going to have a wheel that actually does brake. Are we all good, Richie?
Yep. How are you?
One up.
Thank you.
Oh, I gave it to you the right way up. So what do we need now? Rim?
Yep. One of these?
Yeah, lovely. Look at that. So that is exactly the same rim as on a Matisse.
As far as I know.
What Richie doesn't know about spokes, rims and nipples ain't worth knowing. You've made a career of nipples, haven't you, really?
Yep. Twiddling them every day.
You do twiddle them every day. Yeah.
Big ones, little ones, coloured ones.
Nickel ones, brass ones, pink ones.
Yep.
It's great fun bantering with Richie, but the new front wheel is crucial if I'm going to get this bike right. In the Balkans, I'll be doing a lot of road miles, so I have to feel confident that I can stop quickly if I need to. That's why I've got to have a proper front brake. I knew my front brake didn't work when I was in South Africa. Very early on in proceedings, I was driving out of Johannesburg and I grabbed a handful of the front brake. It didn't really work too well because obviously it's a motocross front brake. You don't want one that works really well. You just want it to actually just give you just a little bit of braking, not a whole lot. So I'm riding along and all these guys in Soweto, just on the outskirts of Johannesburg, they have these signs that say electrician or carpenter or all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, and they come out into the road and they show you the sign. Anyway, this guy came out to me with the word plumber on his sign, right? And I grabbed a handful, I couldn't stop, I hit him with my shoulder, right? And as I was riding away, I turned round and his sign actually read plum. So there you go. He's a plum farmer now. Half an hour and 13 anecdotes later, which mercifully I'll spare you. The wheel is ready to roll. But hey, look, man, check that out. Perfection. And I'm going to be able to stop. Next, I take the bike over to meet its maker, Jerry Lisi, the owner of Matisse, and the man who built my original Desert Racer. Task number 1. Fit the new front wheel and swap the tyres. OK, well, feast your eyes on that. Straight back from Hagen's, beautifully laced by Richie. And that is my Honda. I think it was originally off a 250 or a 350 Honda. Twin leading shoes, so that's going to give me the kind of braking I need on the road. Meantime, Jerry has slipped out the other wheel. Jerry, because I'm a skinflint, I didn't bring another tyre.
OK, well, I'll have to use your old one then.
Yeah?
That's fine.
It's not that old, mate.
No, I can see it's not.
And I thought, well, why not? After all my troubles in South Africa, with trials tyres shedding their tread, I've replaced them with hard-wearing Enduros, which are ideal for my Balkans journey. So who needs a tyre extricator machine when you've got Jerry in his hands? That'll be the hub that's just fallen out. Jerry, yeah, I was just looking at the hub there, mate, while you were away. Looks perfect to me, man. Can I do anything to assist you?
No.
Okay.
Just keep out of the way.
All right. There you go, Governor.
Hang on a minute, Governor.
All right, Governor.
No, we've got to put a bit of lubrication on.
Story of my life, Gov. The beauty of these Enduro tyres, apart from the fact that they're so tough, is that they are usable both on and off-road. The secret of mounting them quickly is the housewife's favourite, mild green fairy liquid, which, as well as keeping your hands as soft as your face, it's fantastic for getting tyres on your rim without rupturing your knuckles. Jerry? That's amazing. How'd you do that? When I'm putting the tyre on, I get to a point where I just, you know, I'm leaning on it, I'm trying to do that and all that kind of, it just all goes horribly wrong.
All done with a little fairy.
A little fairy with big hands. The next task is to swap the pegs. Steve McQueen had them fit rigid pegs, which are as lethal as the blades on a Roman chariot. I used them in South Africa and came back with more bruises than a schoolboy footballer. Now I want to replace them with modern-day flipbacks, which are much more shin-friendly. And basically give her a check over, really, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's what we're going to do.
Big sit service and a good overall.
Over the next couple of days, I leave Jerry to get on with it, while I dream of far-off lands and adventures to come. My trip through the Balkans is, I hope, going to be a truly epic motorcycle ride through stunning landscape, but it's only going to succeed if the bike goes the distance, and that, as we know from South Africa, is a big ask. When Steve McQueen commissioned his original desert racer from Matisse in the mid-60s, he was at the height of his career, both as a movie star and a motocross rider. He wanted something that would allow him to compete in grueling races in the Californian desert. Today, bikes like his Matisse are still used for classic scrambling competitions, like this event at Gosford Park in Essex, where veteran racers rub shoulders with young fogies in love with classic machines. Any decent motocross bike has to have three key qualities: speed, lightness and strength. Before the Rickman brothers developed the Matisse brand, riders would just strip down and adapt conventional road bikes. They were the first to create purpose-built machines designed specifically for off-road racing, and that's what Steve McQueen admired so much, as Bobby Foxworth, McQueen's mechanic, explained to me when he came over to the Matisse factory in Oxfordshire many sideburns ago.
The first bike I built was Steve's Matisse. These bikes were so iconic, and especially with Steve riding them. The difference between him and a lot of people was he wanted to understand why they worked the way they worked. He was really into the geometry of them, and he just fell in love with these bikes, and he had to have one.
McQueen's bike, like the modern replica, was powered by a 650cc Triumph Lump. Because it was designed for racing, it was high revving, tuned for brief bursts of acceleration. The front brake was deliberately soft, so that you'd never be brought to a halt with a jolt. My trip to the Balkans, obviously, is very different. I'm going to be doing long rides day after day, and most of it's going to be on tarmac. So this purpose-built motocross bike needs to be turned into an all-rounder, and Jerry has got a job on. In rapid succession, he installs new shock absorbers, sorts out the brakes, and fits a new kill switch, so I don't have to stall the bike every time I want to stop it. Because of all those road miles I'm going to do, he's also going to adjust the gearing. When, though, will it be ready to take away? Well, it's been a couple of days now since Jerry started working on the bike. Let's see how he's getting on. Are you feeling confident?
Yeah, I am. Every day I feel confident.
Well, I was referring, rather than your career, to actually this motorbike.
Well, when you stop and think about it, this is my career.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Well delivered, Jerry. Very definitely. Changing the foot pegs may sound easy, but in fact, it's about as fiddly as playing a Stradivarius.
Excuse my French.
It's a family show, Jerry.
It's just my nuts are falling off. All right, I got it now.
That happened to me at a very early age. OK, so that's the one side.
All right, over to you.
Oh, I knew it. Oh, fuck, Jerry.
I've got to take this one off as well.
No, but... A Matisse weighs in at 135 kilos. Why go to the gym when you can act as Jerry's bike stand?
After, boy, you hold it there, my son.
One of these bikes usually takes around 8 weeks to build. They're more masterpiece than mass production. I don't have too much time, though, for my rebuild. As my first girlfriend used to say, I'm always in a hurry. You don't fancy a trip to Croatia, Jerry?
For me?
They say the ladies there are rather nice. But I've always believed that by the time you're 35, you become invisible to women.
Yeah.
So that's when you have to start riding vintage motorbikes.
Yeah, they're safer.
Yeah. Once the second peg is sorted, Jerry refits the chain, adjusts the tension, and bingo, we're ready to go. Rip-a-dip-a-do now.
What total miles you'll be doing?
1,500? 20, 25,000. I think I might just go once round the entire globe. Well, not quite 25,000 miles, but this bike is going to have to get me all the way through the Balkans. Riding it home from Matisse, the change in performance is obvious. The brakes are much firmer and the new wheel and tyre have settled in nicely. The big old Triumph lump still likes to shake, rattle and roll a bit, but the new gearing gives it a much smoother ride. Now all that's left to do is to get Skid, my mechanic, to give it a final tweak back at Col Central. Jerry's done his thing, and what he's done is fantastic. But as always, this is Gid, by the way. Come on, Skidley. Guy and I build beautiful chops. Well, he does most of the building. I do an awful lot of tea drinking. But any bike that Guy and I have through our doors, we like to aesthetically make nice. And also, there is a contribution that you are going to make right now, which is going to help me, which is these. New grips. Why? Because they're soft, nice, and are going to help me with any vibration that comes through on a long ride. There you go, mate. Fitting the grips requires a sharp knife, a lot of glue, and a practised eye. Once we have twist off, the next stage of the makeover is the shiny bits. We have purchased rather a nice bar end mirror. Oh no, don't look at yourself in that, mate.
No,
you might get a very, very big shock. Guy and I have known each other for, how long?
30 years, is it?
We've seen some things, mate. We've ridden some bikes. We've caused ourselves quite a few problems on motorcycles. But I'll tell you one thing we have done, which every self-respecting person who's into classic motorcycling should do, is drink an awful lot of tea. Fitting the mirror is so easy. Even I can do it. The trick is, right, is whether you can actually do this without the tea falling off. Are you drinking it?
You should sit on the bike and do that, so you get it at the right angle.
Good point, well delivered, mate. OK. So, compared to how it was in South Africa, I have to say, we have transformed this bike. If I was in Russia, I'd have 47 mirrors on now, having ridden through there. They're crazy, Guy. Have you ever been over there?
To Russia? No.
No,
No.
I thought not. All right, so tomorrow is the big road test. If it passes that, we're on. And the answer is top marks all round, a star with distinction, an honorary doctorate at the University of Mechanicsville's Department of Fettling and Tea Drinking. Jerry obviously did most of the major work, but as well as fitting the grips, the Skidler has tuned the engine, lock-tighted all the bolts to make sure that fewer bits and pieces fall off this time round, and given it a good old once-over. Whether it makes it all the way down the Balkans, it's too early to say, but this time, at least it stands a fighting chance. Well, as test rides go, that couldn't have gone much better. Now, the bad news is, well, it's not really bad news. There's a little bit of oil just on top of the engine there, but I think that might be just excess, just washing off out of the fins and onto the engine. She rides beautifully. Jerry's done a fantastic job. We've corrected now everything that went wrong in South Africa, so let's just hope it doesn't go wrong again. Coming up, we finally landed Ljubljana, Slovenia's gorgeous capital city, the starting point for my trip around the Balkans and one of Europe's best-kept secrets. But before we get going, we meet the locals and check out the competition. What are the Slovenian men like?
For my generation, we need to outsource.
At last, the big day has come, and we've made it to Slovenia, the jumping-off point for my epic road trip through the Balkans. We're going to start in Ljubljana, then ride down through Croatia, take a detour through its famous islands, then head up to Bosnia, revisit Sarajevo, motor through Serbia, before bringing the whole trip to a big fat Balkan climax in Sofia, the capital city of Bulgaria. As ever, Hamish, my producer, is playing soundman, but there are a couple of new members of the team, as well as my old mate Trouble. Well, after all the preparations, we've finally arrived here in Ljubljana. That's the good news. The bad news is the bike hasn't arrived. Or is that it? No? Hamish? Talk to me.
Today or tomorrow?
What do you mean today or tomorrow?
Well, it'll be here either this evening or first thing in the morning, ready to leave.
promise me?
But I promise, nearly.
Okay. Well, look, I'll tell you what, though. While we're waiting, can I introduce you to Hamish's new friend? Okay, that is Pre-Drag over there, okay? Pre-Drag is our fixer, and he's going to make our trip go seamlessly. The other good thing is a new cameraman, and that is Tom. Have a look at him.
Hello.
There he is. Look at him. Hey? Now, as you can
Exceptionally
see... hang on a second. As you can see, Tom is exceptionally tall. So basically, if there's loads and loads of shots of like that at me, you'll understand why. So we've got to wait till tomorrow. But that's a perfect opportunity to explore this beautiful city. Ljubljana has to be one of the best-kept secrets in Europe. A gem of a city, which combines gorgeous architecture with a relaxed, easy-going atmosphere. It's been an important trading city for hundreds of years and Slovenia's capital since 1991. Most Slovenians are Roman Catholics. In Ljubljana, there are plenty of churches to visit and saints to pray to. If sun worship is more your kind of thing, then the summers are long and the highest temperatures come in June and July. With a population of around 300,000, Ljubljana is busy enough to feel lively, but only gets really chocker right in the centre. I mean, will you take a look at this place, hey? I think Ljubljana is one of the nicest capital cities I think I've ever visited, really. This is the Ljubljanca River that bisects the old town. Also, to make it even more tranquil and lovely, they've stopped traffic here in the centre. So consequently, there's no chance of being run over by a small Trabant. And the best time to enjoy it, well, probably about, you know, before 12 o'clock noon. Why? Well, it's because the 64,000 students that live here haven't got up yet. When those thousands of students finally stir their stumps, a lot of them, well, at least 11, head for the old town where the university is located. Well, the focal point of the old town is here, the Three Bridges, overlooked beautifully by the Church of the Annunciation. Ljubljana is rightly famous for its architecture, a mixture of Italian Baroque and slightly heavier, more Austrian-style buildings, a lot of which were put up after a big earthquake at the end of the 19th century. The town's biggest attraction, in both senses of the word, is Ljubljana Castle, which dominates the skyline. If you're feeling fit, it's a 20-minute hike from the old town, but if you're lazy like me or less athletically inclined, then there's a brand new funicular railway which will get you to the top in less than a minute. The views from up here are sublime, hey? Take a look at those and the fabulous city below. Old Ljubljana may seem a bit fossilised, but from up here you can also see the new, thriving modern city behind it. And in the distance, the Julian Alps to the north of the city. But also the views over there are good of the castle, and I especially like the way the modernity of the new buildings mixes seamlessly with the 16th century architecture. This castle was built in 1511, you know, after a very large earthquake. Like a lot of old castles, this one has been in the wars. Once a proud fortress, it then became a prison, an ammunition store and finally social housing. For the last 30 years, though, they've been restoring it and turning it into a museum and tourist attraction, and great it looks too. I've got a feel for what Ljubljana looks like now, but what makes this town tick? I'm going to start by visiting Zoran Jankovic, the businessman turned politician who has been Ljubljana's biggest cheese for nearly 10 years. Thank you so much. What a wonderful city. Do you think this is one of Europe's secrets, Ljubljana?
I think so. Ljubljana is the most beautiful city in the world.
But I have to say, you know, it's a revelation to me. How many tourists do you get here a year coming from Europe or America?
We started 8 years ago with 400,000. Last year we finished with more than 1 million.
Ljubljana is a great place to visit if you're a tourist, but it's also a very livable place for its own residents. It's been voted the most honest city in the world, World Book Capital, and just this year, Europe's most environmentally friendly city. Oh, look at that! The green capital of Europe. That kind of sums it up, doesn't it? It's great to hear that it's getting the recognition it deserves. But to get the real flavour of the city, you have to talk to someone other than the mayor. So I've strolled back down into the old town to hook up with a local TV personality, Mojka Mavic, to get the inside track from a native Ljubljana.
I see it with people coming over, you know, if they don't have a picture in their head what Ljubljana looks like. So it's always a nice surprise. You know, you think, okay, this Eastern European country, former socialist, everything grey. And then you come over and you see this, which isn't so bad, huh?
Oh, man, I've got to tell you, I was one of those people. You know, I have never been here before, and I imagine sort of stark Soviet buildings and all this kind of stuff, and you come here, it is a revelation. It's the most beautiful city, and it's so small. I guess you can walk everywhere, can you?
Yeah, you can. That's why Slovenian people, or people from Ljubljana, are always late.
Mojka, who's clearly in her salad days, is keen to show me the local lettuce. But I have to confess, I'm more of a burger and chips kind of a guy and have a different kind of dish on my mind. Hey, look, tell me, right, what are the Slovenian men like?
Oh, the Slavic gene is like... The ladies are very nice.
Hey, look, I have sussed that out.
Yeah. Ljubljana is a nice combination of ladies from all different parts of the country. But the men are quite, you know, these Slavic genes are not very kind to men.
Really? Why?
I don't know, they're like very...
There's some good-looking geezers around. I mean, not that I'm that way inclined.
That's a new
but,
generation,
you know.
maybe it's mixed, you know.
Oh, OK, all right.
But for my generation, we need to outsource.
And on that note, it's time to head back to the hotel. The good news is that while we've been out filming, a new guest has just checked in. Air freighted from London by beautiful Steve McQueen, desert racer. It looks fantastic, and touch wood, seems to have survived the journey completely unscathed. And that means one thing. Tomorrow, we hit the road, Radko. Well, good morning from Ljubljana. The motorcycle has arrived. Feast your eyes, and for the first time ever, Hamish hasn't been lying, have you?
No.
It's pathetic. Hey, look, we're going to head out of Ljubljana now and head sort of southwest towards Croatia. I don't want to leave this city. It is absolutely lovely. But as they say in France, it's time to frappe la rue. Boy, does it feel good. It was great to look around Ljubljana and sample the local dishes, but this show isn't about salad, it's about speed. And the best kind of greenery for me is the stuff I see through my goggles on the side of the road. The first ride is a brief 85-kilometre trip south towards the Adriatic coast on the E61. It's the only stage where I'm on a 2-lane motorway, so it's a good test for the Matisse's ability to maintain a constantly high speed. As on my last trip through Australia, I'm wearing an airbag jacket complete with an umbilical cord connected to the handlebars. The Matisse feels great. The new tyres, the new gearing, even the new grips, they all make it ride so much better. I'm not going to get overconfident. The trip has barely begun and there's plenty of time for things to go wrong. But so far, so good. The scenery is divine, the road surface is great, and for the first sort of 40 kilometres, my baby's cruising. I really do have a great feeling about this ride. You know, I'm obviously worried about the bike, but my worries pale into insignificance, really, compared to the expectation of how beautiful and how amazing Slovenia and beyond is going to be. I'll tell you what, man, Am I lucky to be here, and am I lucky to do my job? Coming up, I swap saddles and show off my dressage skills and decide to decorate my bike.
Just run the felt tip over there. Okay? Simple, eh?
I'm in Slovenia, one of Europe's newest and smallest countries, on day one of my ride through the Balkans. So far, the bike feels great, and the gremlins are sticking well clear of us. The Matisse hugs the road like an old friend, and unlike when I took it to South Africa, the new gearing means it's fast enough to occasionally overtake someone. But rather than push my luck, I'm going to ease her in gently and break the journey at the small town of Lipica, home to the world-famous Lipica stud. OK, all right. It wasn't probably 70 kilometres of the finest roads on offer here in Slovenia, but to me, it was idyllic. The road surface was perfect, the vistas were sublime. So we're here in Lipica, and we're going to go and talk to a few fellas about some serious horsepower. These pale-skinned beauties are Lipizzaner horses, the aristocrats of the equine world, with aristocratic manners to boot. They're famous for their fancy footwork and ability to pull off dressage moves that leave audiences thrilled, both royal and common. The Lipica stud farm was founded in 1680 by the Archduke Karl of Austria, then one of the most powerful men in Europe. Today, as Yanis, the stud manager, explains, the horses are still highly prized. So was the characteristics primarily that they were very strong, perhaps, or not?
They were strong, they were very easy to train.
Right.
And because of their physical characteristics, they were able to perform this classical dressage in the best manner.
Can I just ask you one quick question, though? I mean, if you've got 350 horses that are white, I mean, do you know each one? I mean, can you recognise them or not? Or just go, I'll have 4 of those white ones over there, mate.
For me, of course, it's impossible. The grooms, they know the horses. The riders, they know the horses. I know the breeding stock, but it is sometimes difficult.
Hopefully you're not halfway to an event and you go, oh, I've brought the wrong one.
No, never happened so far.
And yeah, so should we go for a tour? I think we're going to have a little ride here, aren't we?
Yeah, we can.
Come on, then. I've always fancied a horse and carriage, but never thought I'd be pulled along by a pair of Lipizzaners. They live in regal splendour, quartered in wood-lined stables to die for, and fed on lush grass that would turn Champion the Wonder Horse green with envy. So it takes about 4 years to train a horse, yeah? But what percentage make the top grade?
Yeah, well, about 10 to 20%.
Oh, OK.
Maybe.
All right. And if you want to see these incredible dancing horses, the stars of the equine world, then trot this way. Any visit to the stud here wouldn't be complete without sitting down and taking in what's supposedly one of the finest horse shows in the world. These beasts are never going to get you from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds or win the 5:30 at Catterick on a wet Friday afternoon. But nowhere else in the world are you going to get horses that can move with such precision and grace. The exercises, developed at the famous Spanish riding school in Vienna, have been wowing spectators for centuries. Now I confess that after half an hour of horses dancing to hooked-on classics, my own personal attention begins to wander a bit. But just at the point when it was all looking a little predictable, the real show starts. This is more like it. Lipizzana's performing the equine equivalent of wheelies and bunny hops. Wunderbar! Well, that was truly spectacular. But if you thought that was good, now it's my turn. Okay, well, here we go then. Swapping 650 horsepower for one. Which am I most nervous about? This one. Anyway, this is going to be a first for me to ride a Lipizzaner horse. So you've got to have the right headgear, obviously, for it. And probably I don't need gloves. Here you go, Evish. Right then, let's do it. Princess Anne has nothing on me. What's his name?
Straight.
Her name?
Napolitano Canisa.
Napolitano Canicia. That's
Canicia.
quite a long word.
Yes, we say only Canizo.
Canicia. My trainer looks like a cross between Harry Dean Stanton and a Lipizzaner. I can see he's really looking forward to teaching me. It's been 15 years since I last got on a horse. And though, at the age of 8, I did win the egg and spoon race at the local gymkhana, I have to admit that I'm a little bit nervous. Well, at least I got up here. Mounting up, dear boy. As Lavinia, my first riding teacher, used to say, is not quite the same as knowing how to ride. The secret of controlling a Lipizzaner, it seems, is a particular hand, rein, spine, stirrup combination, which my trainer thinks is obvious, but it's not so easy for a novice.
Yeah.
As it goes on, there are two basic problems with this dressage lesson. First of all, I can't really understand my trainer that well, and he doesn't seem to understand me. I'm completely confused.
Yeah, good so. Now again trot. Just
Okay.
sit in the saddle.
Rising trot.
Allez, just press straight in the saddle. Allez.
And secondly, I want to get this horse off the leash and canter off into the sunset. But he, wisely I suppose, considering the €10,000 price tag on one of these. Is this good or bad? Wants to keep me going round and round in circles of ever-decreasing interest. Like that?
Yeah.
Well, I guess for you lot at home, it wasn't quite as exhilarating as the show, obviously, but for me, it was probably slightly more scary. Hey, look, either way, what a privilege to be riding a real Lipizzaner horse. Good boy. It's been a great visit. Riding out of here, I'm half tempted to get into a rising trot. But in the end, I prefer to travel on 2 wheels, not 4 legs, however aristocratic those legs may be. For the next hour, I'm in motorbike heaven, steering the Matisse along the kind of mountain roads that make Slovenia so special. It's like a miniature version of Austria, but with better weather. More than half the country is covered in trees, making it more heavily forested than anywhere else in Europe. If they made TVs that would scratch and sniff, I'd advise you to rub your screens now to get a whiff of beautiful Slovenian beach. My pit stop for tonight is Graticia, a small town in the Slovenian mountains. Well, we've got to Gratice, I think it's called, and my word, what a ride. I'm just beginning to understand what this road is all about through this mountain pass. It is glorious, and what you can't smell is the kind of fragrances, the mountain air. It's like riding through a Radox bath. Anyway, let's hope we have more riding like that to come. But I'll tell you what, I'm knackered after what has been the first and the most glorious day on the road. Next day, we're up with the lark, or starling to be more precise. Well, good morning from Graticia. And if this is rural living in Slovenia, I'm having loads of it. Like 60% of Slovenia, there are forests and hills everywhere. There are supposedly 500 to 700 brown bears in Dem Hills, the most you'll find in Europe. You know, when I was riding through Russia, actually, I was riding along the motorway and I thought I saw a brown bear in the trees, but it wasn't. it was a hay bale. I'm raring to get back on the road, but I'm still a little nervous about the Matisse, so before I start her up, there's something else I need to do. When you're riding an old British bike, it can be quite good. Instead of every evening, I have a look round and a cursory glance at the bolts and all that kind of stuff to see if anything's come loose, is to use a Sharpie, all right? And some of the bolts that you know are liable to come loose, just run a little Sharpie over them, like this one here, OK?
Yeah, just run your felt tip over there, OK? Simple, eh? So basically, if this evening I look at that valve cover, inspection cover, and it's moved, I know it needs tightening. And there are just a few nuts around here on the bike that I know are liable to come loose. So I'm just going to mark them up, hey? And then we'll be off ski. The next bit of riding is as sweet as I'd hoped. Whereas in South Africa it was a push to get over 55. The new gearing means that the Matisse cruises along happily at 65. And there are enough twists and turns in the road to keep both me and the bike on our toes. I'd love to stay in Slovenia for a lot longer and ride more of these glorious roads, but there's so much else that I want to do on this trip that we have to move on. Within an hour, we've reached the Croatian border and made a surprisingly painless crossing until the bike stalls. Back on the road, the landscape has changed to something more open, but just as dramatic and beautifully rural. It's all going swimmingly well until we reach the famous mountain town of Motovan, where we endure our second hiccup of the day. In case you're wondering why I've crunched down into the Barry Sheen riding position and the bike's sounding so quiet, I've run out of petrol 200 metres away from the petrol station. At least I now know how much mileage this bike does to the tank. I've only got a little push. As I discovered in South Africa and then forgot, this bike has a maximum range of about 60 miles before you have to fill her up. Anyway, look, first impressions of Croatia. My word, the roads are stunning. And you know, at the speed on the old Matisse, she's thudding along. And I can just take in the views, take in the smells, take in the ambience of the place. Immediately I feel there's slightly an Italian vibe. I can't tell you why, probably because we're relatively close to Italy. But the roads are stunning, and that mountain road coming up here, to die for. Motovan, as it turns out, is the ultimate unscheduled stop, a quintessential hilltop town that wouldn't look out of place in Umbria or Tuscany. Charming streets, picturesque churches, scooters galore, and landscape that would thrill Leonardo da Vinci, especially if he was riding a Ducati. Well, thank God we ran out of petrol here, eh? This is my first view of the countryside from a large hill in Croatia. Just take a look at it. The hills and the roads, man. Oh my God, I'm going to be in heaven here. And I'll tell you something else. Feel the heat. This scenery isn't just picturesque. As well as being rich farmland, this bit of Croatia is famous for its truffles, the world's stinkiest and most expensive edible fungi. Just 100 grams of these will set you back 350 quid. And in them hills over there, there are truffles aplenty to discover. They're found with a small dog. You have to train them carefully, and then you can make an awful lot of money. Hamish, fancy a new career?
I've got the nose for it.
You have got the nose for it.
I've got the tools.
Alas, though, you haven't got the mouth. Oh, hang on, Mother, I've really told her to behave herself. Oh, that's the office. Answer it, Hamish.
Hello, HCA.
Do you know what, modern society, you know, we're governed by the mobile phone, aren't we? Gone are the days where you have a guidebook. You know, I was looking up Motovan, I've do it on the internet or whatever. Hey, look, Motovan is a glorious place. Please come here. It was a completely unexpected stop for us, but it is a delight. Can you stop? I'm trying to work here.
Next time, I come out fighting in Pula. Get cooking in Plomin.
Would that be called Michelin star filleting?
Not yet.
And go island hopping in Croatia.
I hate ferries.
Bruce Parry travels to post-Soviet Siberia later tonight to experience life with the Saka horse people and a remote encampment of reindeer herders. New Arctic with Bruce Parry is tonight at 9 on Travel Channel.